Hilchos Issurei Mizbeach Perek Shlishi, the laws of the forbidden entities to the altar, chapter 3. So we talk about mumim for the last 2 days, blemishes of animals. And today, the Rambam moves on to birds. Halacha Aleph, Ein hamumin poislin ba'oif. The general rule is, there's no such thing as a blemish that disqualifies a bird. V'chein, echad hazachar ve'echad hanekeva ba'oif. And there's another unique law by birds that it doesn't matter if it's male or female. When it comes to animals, we're going to see in the next set of laws that there's a big difference. Some animals you can only bring as a female, some you can only bring as a male. Comes to birds, males and females are the same. Shaloi nemar tomim zachar ela bebehema bilvat. Because the verse in the Torah that says that the animals have to be complete and male, it only says that by animals. It doesn't say that by birds. Now, Medvarim Amurim says the Rambam, when are we talking about what kind of blemishes are kosher for birds? Bemumin ktanim, if it's small blemishes. Aval oif, but if you have a bird that has such a massive blemish, sheyavish gapoy, for example, its wing dried up, it can't fly anymore. Or nismes einoy, or its eye was blinded. Or nikta aragli, or its foot was chopped off, then asr legabe ha-mizbeach. That is forbidden to the mizbeach, she'ein makrivin chaser klal. Like we saw yesterday, you don't bring anything that's lacking. On Hashem's Mizbeach, you don't bring anything lacking. V'chein, and so too, im neilad by achas min hatrefos, she'oister neisa ba'achila, if something happened to a bird, and it made it treif in a way that you wouldn't eat it, harei is a nifsa lekarban, you also don't bring it as a sacrifice. Why? We said yesterday, you wouldn't bring it to your governor. You're not going to eat it, so why should Hashem eat it? It's not right. And the Rebbe has a very interesting diuk. He finds a nuance in the Rambam that the Rambam changes from the Gemara. The Gemara learns the concept of no mum by a bird from a different verse. The Rambam learns it from the fact that tamim zachar is only said by animals. And the Rebbe has a whole explanation, but basically the bottom line is that both animals and birds have to be tamim, they have to be complete. The question is, what kind of completeness is required? For an animal, a higher level of completeness is required. For a bird, less of a level of completeness. Why? The reason for that is because generally, who brings birds as a sacrifice? Poor people. Who can afford to bring an animal? Rich people. So when, in halacha, what does it mean to be rich? Rich doesn't mean that you just have more money than the poor person. Rich means you're on a whole different level. So the same way for a sacrifice. If you're a poor person, so you bring a bird sacrifice, your level of completeness required is lower level. Once you're on a higher level of richness, now your completeness for a korban is a whole different level required. No, even small mums are disqualifying. At any rate, for birds, it only has to have a major mum to be disqualified. Now, in the Torah, when it comes to sacrifices, there are only two types of birds mentioned. One is called the toir, the turtle dove. If you say Shir HaShirim, you know it. Kol hator nishma ba'artzeinu, yeah? The tor, even today, the way they, if you look on Google, turtle dove migrates. It spends its time in different regions, and in the spring it comes to Israel. That's why it says, V'kol hator nishma ba'artzeinu. In our land, we hear the voice of the turtle dove now in the springtime. That's a tor. And then the other bird in Torah is a ben yonah, which is a pigeon. This is more of a common pigeon. They call this a rock pigeon. It's not clear exactly which pigeon is mentioned in the Torah, but it's definitely a species of pigeon. Huh? Yeah, same family. Oh, are these two the same family? No. Turtle dove and pigeon. The thing with turtle dove and pigeon is that they become kosher for sacrifices at opposite times. What does that mean? Halacha beis, tairim ketanim psulin, ubnei yoina gdailim psulin. Turtle doves, when they're too small, they're disqualified only when they mature. But when it comes to pigeons, it's the opposite. The mature ones are the disqualified ones, only the small ones are kosher. Shanemar, as it says, and the Rambam is not clear which verse he's referring to, so I put up both. It says twice in the Torah, min hatoirim, I mean b'nei hayayna. From the turtle doves or from the young pigeons? Why do I say b'nei hayayna? Should I say b'nei hatorim? B'nei means young. So toirim are only adult ones are kosher. Pigeons, only the young ones are kosher. Tchilas hatzihuv, bazeh bazeh pasol. When their feathers begin to yellow. I couldn't find a picture, but on Google, but you can look this up. As they mature, the feathers around their neck turn yellow. So that's disqualified for both. When the turtle dove's feathers become yellow, it's still immature. When the pigeon's feathers become yellow, it's already considered mature. Until when are pigeons kosher? When do they stop becoming young? As long as if you were to pluck the wing out of it, the core would get bloody. Then it's too young. Once it doesn't get bloody, then it's already old enough and you can't bring it. I'm sorry. So when the wing is bloody, then it's young and it's good. Yes. Once it stops producing blood, it's no good anymore. The turtle doves are kosher once they become gold. Rashi describes it as more of a reddish. That's why I picked this picture of the turtle dove, because you can see that the feathers are a little bit reddish goldish. So once the feathers are reddish goldish, then it's kosher. Now, halacha gimel hatumtum v'handreginais. If a bird genitalia is covered, you don't know if it's male or female, or if it has both organs, afal pisha ein lechamum gadol mehen. Even though there's no greater blemish than that, they're disqualified for the altar for a different reason. Because they're in doubt whether they're male or female, they're a third species. When it comes to sacrifices, it says zachar tamim, has to be a male. And again, I don't know which verse that Rambam is referring to, but there's three verses where it says zachar tamim in sacrifices, and it also says unikeva smima. That's this verse over here. One of the sacrifices which comes as a female, it says nikeva smima. Torah says it has to be male and female. Ad sheyeh zachar v'adai and nikeva v'adais. Has to be a definite male or a definite female. Lefichach, therefore, by the way, some say it's even learned from the word tamim. It says zachar tamim, a complete male, an actual male, a definite male. Lefichach, Lefichach, therefore, afa oif sho tumtumay andregenes pasal Mizbeach. So even though we said before that birds, regular blemishes don't apply to them, but in this case, because they have this kind of doubt, and they're not for sure a male or for sure a female, so they're disqualified. Also a hybrid, C-section, and an animal that's lacking time. We'll soon see what that means. It's not 8 days old. Is disqualified for the Mizbeach, even if there's no blemish. Shanemar, as it says in the verse that we read on every holiday. In the Kriyas HaTorah, it says, Shoyer oichese vay'ez. This is the full verse. Shoyer oichese vay'ez ki yivaleid. When there's a new ox or sheep or goat born, it should wait for 7 days under its mother. So every word in that verse is exact. First it says, Shoyer oichese vay'ez, that means, Ad sheyeh kol min v'min bifnei atzmai. Every species on its own. You can't have a mixture. Lo sheyeh mu'urav mikeves v'ez. It can't be mixed from a sheep and a goat. Ki yivaleid, that has to be born the natural way. Prat liyotze doifen, that excludes C-section. The hoya shivas yamim, it'll be for 7 days. Prat lemechusar zman, that excludes an animal that's lacking time. It's not old enough yet. And then it says tachas imoy, has to be under its mom. That means prat liyosim shenoilad achar shanishchata imoy. That excludes an orphan that was born after its mother was slaughtered. We call this ben pakua, basically a fetus that you discover in the animal's womb after it's dead. So in a way, it's like C-section. And we'll see about that later, why that's important. But it's a separate word in the pasuk teaches us that. But tachas imay, under its mother, has to have been sharing a world with its mom. If it was only discovered after its mom was dead, you can't bring it on the Mizbeach. Halacha hey hanidme. What if you have an animal that looks similar? It's not a hybrid. Both its parents are sheep, but looks like a goat. Afal pisha einay kilayim. Even if it's not a hybrid, harei upasal Mizbeach, it's disqualified for the Mizbeach. Yeah. Ketzah, what does that mean? Rachel sheyolda kimin eiz, ve'eiz sheyolda kimin keves. You have it. A female sheep gives birth to an animal, looks like a goat. Or a female goat will give birth to an animal, looks like a sheep. Afal pisha yesh bei miktzas simanon. Even if it shares some of the signs of its parent, hoyil v'hu doimel min acher pasul kabamum kavua. As long as it looks like a different species, it's disqualified as though it has a permanent blemish. She'ein lechamum kavua gadol min ashinoi. There's no greater blemish than a change of species. If you have a person, lahavdil, that's black, and a child that's white, that itself is a mum. Something's off, right? Halacha vav v'chein, and so too harayveya v'hanirba. If an animal was used in relations, whether it was the male or the female, v'hamuktzeh la'avodah zara, or if it was set aside to serve as an idol, v'haneva, or it was actually served, afal pishein mutarin ba'achila, even though these things are kosher and they could be eaten, harehin psulim legabe hamizbeach, they're disqualified for the Mizbeach. Shenemar. The Rambam makes an interesting comparison. It says, in the verse that describes blemishes, mums, it says, ki moshchasam. Funny word. Moshchasam bahem. Their destructive feature is in them. Mumbam, they have a blemish. Since the word blemish is described with the word hashchata, which means destruction. So we look where else in the Torah do we use this word. Kol sheyesh behashchasa pasol. Anything which is described with the word destruction is disqualified. For example, ba'aveda hu omer, when it talks about relations, what does it say? Just before the flood, Hashem told Noach, why am I bringing the flood? Ki hishchis kol basar. Because all flesh was acting destructively. So Rashi says that it means that animals in their own were mating with different species. But the Rambam interprets it as animals and people were having improper relations. Uba'aveda zara ksiv, same expression by idol worship. Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, you can't stay on Har Sinai anymore, go down. Why? Ki shiches amcha, because your nation was destructive. So when an animal or a bird also kills a person, they're considered like an animal used in sin, disqualified for the Mizbeach. V'yirah says the Rambam, it seems to me, even though all these things we just listed are disqualified for the Mizbeach as a sacrifice, if you went ahead and sacrificed them, you don't get lashes. None of these things have a clear verse in the Torah prohibiting them. It's all learned out from different words and different extra words, but it's not clear. To contrast, for example, aval esnan zoina umechir kelev, an animal that was used as payment for a harlot, or it was exchanged for a dog, that's asurin legabe hamizbeach, that's literally in the Torah. Forbidden to the Mizbeach, if you offer one of them or both together, you get one set of lashes. Shenemar, as it says, do not bring the payment for a prostitute or the exchange for a dog on the Mizbeach. Why do you get one lashes for both? They were included in one umbrella. It says, lo tavi, once, don't bring, esnan zaino mechir kelev. Okay, we mentioned before that one of the problems of an animal is if it's lacking time, if it's too young. What is that time frame? Says the Rambam, mitzvah saseh lehakriv kol hakarbanos miyem hashmini v'hala. It's a positive commandment to bring all sacrifices from day 8 and on. Shenemar, as it says, the verse we saw before, v'hoya shivas yamim tachas imay. It'll be 7 days under its mother. Umiyem hashmini v'hala yeratzeh. From the 8th day and on, that's when it's going to be accepted as a sacrifice. V'chol shivas hayamim nikra mechusar zman. For all 7 days, it's called lacking in time. Even though this is disqualified, same principle as before. It's not clear in the Torah. So even though it's disqualified, if you go and you bring it, you don't get lashes, because it's a prohibition that's learnt from a positive term. It says you should keep it under its mom for 7 days. From there you learn you can't bring it till the 8th day. But you don't get lashes for that. Yet the sacrifice doesn't achieve atonement. According to Rabbi Akiva Eger, one of the great commentaries here, he says that this prohibition of mechusar zman only applies to animals, not to birds. A bird you can bring even on the first day of life. Even though in the next set of laws that Rambam is going to say that you should wait a month, but you can technically bring a bird even on the first day. Halacha tes, toirim shalai higi azmanon, if the turtle dove didn't reach its time yet, it's immature. Which is the equivalent of lacking time by an animal. Or the pigeon was too old, it got mature and you can't bring it anymore. They are considered like a blemished animal. Even if the sacrifice is disqualified, it doesn't achieve atonement, but you don't get lashes if you offer them. If somebody consecrates one of these problematic animals, covered genitalia, hermaphrodite, it's going to die soon, it's a hybrid, it's a C-section. So even though in the beginning of these laws, 2 days ago, we saw that even if you consecrate a balmum, you're transgressing. But for this consecration, it's worth nothing. It's like consecrating wood and stone. The holiness doesn't devolve onto their body. They're completely unholy. Nevertheless, you should sell them and bring a sacrifice with the money. Because it was, end of the day, you said hektish on it. So that means you promised to Hashem some kind of donation, bring a karban. You can't call them a blemish. A blemished animal, if a cow is blemished, a different cow can be brought as a sacrifice. But these things, any hybrid, no hybrid can be brought as a sacrifice. There's no karban in its type. Aval, but hamakdish reveya v'nirba umuktze v'nevad ve'esnanu mechir. if somebody would indeed consecrate the last 6 animals, the animal used in relations, it was set aside for idol worship, it was served, it was exchanged with a dog, it was given as payment to a harlot, that's like consecrating an animal with a passing blemish. It's blemished now, but it's not fully blemished, so to speak. So like yesterday we said, anytime you're in doubt, you leave the animal to graze, you put it in the zoo, till it gets a blemish, that's for sure going to disqualify it, and then you redeem it. Same thing if you consecrate an animal lacking time, it's too young, it's like consecrating an animal that's a passing blemish, you don't get lashes as we explained. Nimtzu, says the Rambam in summary, it turns out, all the animals that are forbidden to the Mizbeach are 14. They are Balmum, animal with a blemish, if it's not choicest, if it's missing an internal organ, Utreifa, if it's going to be mortally wounded, Vikilayim hybrid, C-section, Reveya Venirba, animal used in relations, if it killed a person, Hanevad Hamukta, animal that was served as idols, an animal that was set aside for idol worship, Ha'eslan HaMechir, and Mechusar Zman, payment for a harlot, exchange for a dog, and lacking time. Now all the commentaries jump over here and say, what do you mean? There's 3 more that Rambam didn't mention over here. Tumtum, Androgynos, and the animal that was born after its mom was slaughtered. Those 3 are missing. How could the Rambam say 14? It's 17. So they give different answers that they're included in different ones. Like for example, the animal that was born after its mom was slaughtered is like a C-section because it's born C-section end of the day. But the Rebbe wants to know, why did the Rambam use 14? And only the Rebbe can say this. The Rebbe says the Rambam likes to use numbers that have a meaning. So since the word 14 is yad, which means a hand, so it'll be easier to remember. The point of giving a number is to make it easier to remember. So 14, besides the fact that it's special to the Rambam, because his books are 14 books, but he uses a number that's also a word. So when somebody asks you, how many animals trade for the Mizbeach, and you're like, oh, yad, yeah, I remember, yad means 14, so there's 14. Halacha yud beis, kala asurin legabe ha-mizbeach, oisrin bekol shehem. If you have an animal that's forbidden to be on the Mizbeach, it forbids its mixture even at the smallest amount. That means, afilu nisarev echad beriboy. If you have one animal with a problem, and it gets mixed into 10,000 other animals, nifsal hakoil v'nifsal ha-mizbeach. Everything is lost. You can't bring anything on the Mizbeach. It's called davar chashuv. It's important. Important things don't get lost in mixtures. The kulan, but all these animals in the mixture, val doiseya and mutarin la-mizbeach. Their kids would be permitted to the Mizbeach. Chutz mivlad nirbas v'ne'avedes u'muktzes v'shehemisa sa'adam, with the exception of an animal used in bestiality, or served for idols, or put aside for idols, or killed a person, shavladan asurin la-mizbeach kemaisan, their baby is forbidden to the Mizbeach just like them. When is the baby forbidden? If it was pregnant while it did the sin. The fetus was in there. Fetus is called the thigh of its mother. So it was with there when the animal became disqualified, so it's also disqualified. But if an animal was first served as an idol, and then it became pregnant, or it killed and then it became pregnant, so its baby is kosher because it wasn't involved in the sin. Even if 3 things happened. You first made it holy as a sacrifice, then it was involved in bestiality, then it became pregnant. As long as the pregnancy wasn't during the sin, it's kosher. Needless to say, if it was first involved in an avera, while it was unholy, then you sanctified it, and then it became pregnant, shavlada mutar, of course its baby is permitted. In all cases, a chick is for sure permitted, because an egg is a different entity. It's not part of the mom. If somebody bows down to grain, so I asked AI to make me a picture, this is what I got. Bowing down to grain. He's treating it like an idol. If you take this wheat and you grind it into flour, you can use it for an offering, a flour offering on the Mizbeach. Because by the time you process it into flour, it's been changed. It's like a baby. It's an offspring of an animal which is permitted. So too if you fatten an animal with, karshine is fodder, like hay or food, animal food, beans, that were belonging to idol worship, they're permitted to the Mizbeach because they've been changed. Anything which has been changed is kosher. Halacha tezvav, loikchin kol hakarbanos min ha'ivdei kechavim. A Jew can buy any animal for a sacrifice from an idol-worshipping Gentile. Ve'ein chosheshin lahem, loy mishum reveya v'nirba, v'loy mishum muktzah v'neva. You don't have to suspect that a goy's animal was used in an avera or idol worship. Ad sheyivada bevadei shazen nifsal. Innocent till proven guilty. Unless you know for sure it was disqualified, then you can't use it, but as long as you don't know, you're okay. How do we know this? Interesting source. Harehu Omer, it says in the verse, when Shmuel Hanavi told Shaul to kill Amalek. So in the end, he killed all the people, but he didn't kill the animals. So Shmuel asked Shaul, what's the animals? Why are they alive? So what did Shaul say? Me Amaleki Havium, we brought them from the Amalekites. Asher Chamal Ha'am al Metav Hatzoin v'Habakar, the people had mercy on the best of the sheep and the cattle, Leman Zvayach LaHashem Alekecha. They said, we're killing the whole Amalekites, let's bring a sacrifice to Hashem. So in that case, Shmuel was very upset. Because Hashem said, you used to kill everybody, kill the animals too. But what does that tell you? If not for the special commandment to kill everything, taking animals from a Goyish nation is okay. As long as you don't know that it's for sure problematic, you can bring it to Hashem, and therefore for all future generations, you can buy any sacrifice, even from a Goy.